Hey everyone, it's Jill Whalen here to talk to you, I think, about health, hormones, and thought, and the real us. That's what I titled it anyway. We'll see what happens. This is a tricky one for me because health anxiety is probably my biggest fear, I guess, or anxiety or thing that I still, it still looks real to me. If I have a health issue, I'm still scared to death of doctors. I don't want to go. It's paid off. I stay healthy because I don't I don't want to go to the doctors because I'm afraid. If I have to go, I'll have to go, and I'm sure it will all be all right, and it'll probably be a lot easier for me now than maybe in the past, but we'll see. But anyway, so what I wanted to say was, health, the issues that we have, whether it's our hormones acting up, or, something wrong with us physically, these issues are, of course, real. We have real world things that happen to us, and I'm not saying it's all an illusion or it's not true or it's not happening. But what I am trying to say is there are different ways we can react to it. Like, we know there are people in the world, and some of you may be them, who don't get scared by health issues, let's say. They just go to the doctors, and what happens, happens. So that right there tells us that it's not inherent that you have to be anxious when you have a health issue. Hello, Jana and Shirley. Thanks for joining. And Nadine, hello. So it's not a given that because something's wrong with our health that we have to be anxious about it. We can have anxious thoughts, but we don't have to let it rule our lives. Again, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I see this clearly, but here's what I really want to tell you guys. Because I know that the way I feel is always and only 100% thought created, that's what helps. So I know there's no exceptions. A health issue is no exception. It's still the way I feel about it is thought created. And that's the key to all this stuff is, as I said in the book a million times, and I probably say it in the group a million times, it's always about just seeking evidence for yourself to know 100% that there's no exceptions. Everything we feel has to come to us from thought in the moment, whether we are aware of those thoughts or not. That's an important key, because we're not always aware of them. So, but just knowing that, that's the thing. I'm convinced 100% because I've just seen enough evidence. I've never been able to find an exception. So that is what helps me. So I can't say, well, maybe this is the exception, or I can say that, but I just know it. I mean, even if it's just at an intellectual level, even when it doesn't feel like it, when it feels like it's coming from something seems wrong with my body, or is wrong with my body, and I feel anxious, I still know that that the way I feel about it comes to me from thought in the moment. That's it, the only way it can. And of course, in terms of body stuff, our fears are of death, of course, and I think our fear of death is probably what most of our anxiety comes from. So there's more to that, as if you really want to dig deep into that. Of course, if we're having health issues, we're worried we're going to die. I'm going to go to the doctors and they're going to tell us, that's it, you've got only this much time to live. And that could be true. And then we have to deal with that. And whatever feelings we would have about that comes to us from thought in the moment. There are people, my friend Wendy Sajaci, who is in this group, I think, she has cancer, and, she's at stage 4, I think, and, she's still able to, she has good days and bad days, but she's living her life with that diagnosis, and, able to have, be happy many times during the day. She goes up and down. She'll probably see this now. I'll probably get in trouble. Anyway, the other thing with hormones, let me go back to this the sphere of death thing. The other piece of this all, when we know that us as persons on this planet, this is my belief, and it's part of this understanding that the real core of us underneath all the thought, that consciousness part that's aware of what's going on is our true self and our innate well-being, and that piece of us doesn't get sick, doesn't die in my belief. I mean, I guess nobody can know for sure, but the more I've looked into all this stuff and see for myself what feels true, that feels true to me, that our consciousness doesn't actually die. So that alone can create a little bit less fear of death if you start to see that more and more. I mean, I'm still scared to death about death. I don't want to die. I've got too many things to do in this world, so I'm not ready for that. But let me talk a little bit about the hormone thing. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was talking about fluctuating hormones. Now, it's true. When we have fluctuating hormones, oftentimes our thoughts change, our moods seem to change with it, but it still comes to us from thought. And did you ever notice that it doesn't always change? I mean, I can remember, this is going to get probably a little too personal, but I remember sort of being aware of this in my younger days. I remember when the kids were little and they'd be in the car, let's say, the back of the car, making all kinds of noise. Most days, I didn't care. They could scream and yell and fight and do whatever they wanted. It didn't really bother me. But I noticed sometimes if I was like PMSing, had my period, or right before, or whenever it was that used to sometimes get me irritated, I would suddenly, like, any noise that they would make would drive me crazy, and I just would want them to shut the hell up. But not really realizing it until I would look back on it later and seeing that, it was maybe the hormones. But I also noticed that didn't always happen, and I thought that was curious. I would notice, like, there would be times where I could get really anxious when I was, at that premenstrual time. If something happened to happen, it would, I could go off the rails more easily, but not all the time. Like, sometimes nothing would happen, and I'd have it, and I'd feel perfectly fine. And I remember being aware of that. I guess I looked at that stuff at the time and, just kind of chalked it up to being interesting. But now I can see, what it was. It just, that it was thoughts creating the feelings, not the situation. It's not the kids, it's not the hormones, it's not whatever seemed to be provoking the anxiety. It was thought in the moment. That's why it didn't happen every time. And it's the same with like being pregnant. When I was pregnant, everybody, it seemed to me, you're going to be sick, you're going to have this, you're going to feel this, and I didn't have any of those things. I didn't get sick. I felt perfectly fine. I felt normal. I didn't buy into the fact that I would have to have those things, I guess. I don't know. So much of how we feel is our beliefs, and I just didn't really know what to expect, and so everything was fine. And the same with hormones in terms of menopause. I never read much about it, or didn't really know what would happen when I got to menopause. And my only memory of what might happen was watching the old All in the Families. If you remember that show here, we had it in the U.S. with Archie Bunker and Edith, and there was some episode or more where Edith was going through it and was horrible. And I remember thinking, oh my God, that's what menopause is. But again, for me, I didn't really experience much. I had some weird feelings and again, my fear of doctors kept me from going to the doctors. But I remember feeling a bit strange, wondering if that was maybe menopause. But my wisdom said, maybe you're just vitamin deficient. This was before I got healthy. And so I just started taking some multivitamins for, a week or two, and I felt better. And so I said, I guess that was it. And I don't know. But then I felt better. I don't remember feeling fluctuating hormones. I mean, I did have night sweats a lot. and I did have, just hot flashes during the day at times. But I didn't, that was it. They'd come and they'd go. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't have any preconceived beliefs, and so I don't know. I mean, maybe my body just processes those things, the hormones or whatever, better too. So I can't. I don't know the biological reasons, but mentally, I don't know. My thoughts just didn't go there. If somebody ever says, "Well, when you have this, you have to think this way," it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. I notice now, even I'm sort of past the menopause, but I'll still occasionally get hot flashes, and I see it now. It tends to happen through anxiety. It's if I get an anxious thought, I'll sometimes have this like a quick hot flash. And I realize it's triggered by that, which I never used to have before, but it's just another symptom of anxious thought, that's all. I don't know if I can see if anyone has, I don't see any questions or anything, but does anyone have questions? They can type them in. I'm not even sure how to find them on here, but if somebody types one, maybe I'll see it. Let me see if I hit this. Oh, that's for me to write a comment. Anyway, there's only a couple people. Hello, Christian. I see you on there now. So I guess I'll end this one. Oh, and if anyone's online later, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S., I'll be doing a webinar on family relationships with two colleagues, which is free. I'll post it in. I don't think I posted it in the group yet. So, love to have anyone on there if you can make it. And I will talk to you guys another time this week, hopefully. Bye. No, not bye. I have to click finish. But it won't let me.